Okay, thank you. So it's the March 10th CAO committee meeting. Should we call the roll?
Mayor Du Bois,
Here.
Councilmember Philseth,
Here.
Councilmember Koo.
Here.
Oh, certainly, yes. So with this advance notice, I think it's actually just enough time for what is typical for an executive recruitment process. We typically allow about 3 months from announcement to placement. When Beth was hired into her current position, she had actually been an internal candidate. She had served as the assistant city clerk. At that time, the city clerk retired, and that would have been in 2015. So in 2015, the city clerk retired. The CAO committee at that time, or council, selected an executive recruiter. The executive recruiter was Bobby Peckham from a firm called Peckham and McKinney. And so she did conduct a rather extensive recruitment. There's a sample brochure from 2015. It was a pretty wide search. And from that selection process, our internal candidate, Beth Miner, was selected. So since that time, so let me tell you a little bit about how the clerk position works. As you know, it's under Muni Code, a CAO position. And what that means is that we don't really have a salary range. There's a specific salary that is negotiated with the individual once they are, a finalist or made a job offer. That may have changed over time because I do believe there may have been a range established in the past. And actually, if you look at the brochure, there is a range listed there, although the range may be, providing the upper limit of what the CAO committee or council was willing to offer at the time. Let's see, the benefits package is the same that is provided to unrepresented management. So what happens is the clerk contract will simply refer to the management comp plan. And so what that means is that the package keeps pace in case any benefits are added. And as we've seen recently, sometimes things are retracted based on the budget. And so, it just keeps in with that. There's an opportunity for the CAO committee each year to review the clerk's performance. And at that time, there can be negotiations about the contract. And so the salary can be, set or increased or renegotiated at that time. What else do we want to know? Right now, all of our unrepresented managers are actually participating in an unpaid furlough. And the current city clerk is actually participating in that furlough. There's also has been a salary freeze in effect for the current fiscal year. The way the CAO salaries are evaluated each year is we typically hire an outside consultant who does a market study for all CAO positions, and the salary surveys are provided to the committee each year. This year, because we were on or this past year, we were freezing salaries, so there was not a need to do market studies. So the data that we have is a little aged, but we do have some data from about 2 years ago, and should CAO or council be interested in having a survey done, then we do have resources for that. We have been in touch with our peers, our local agencies that constitute our labor market. And we did find that the city of Milpitas and the city of Mountain View recently had turnover in their positions. The city of Mountain View had a long-standing city clerk who retired. They went out to the market, hired someone. That person served in the position for 2 years and then left the position. And then they were successful in finding a replacement. The replacement was someone who worked for the city of Campbell in a lower position. And so they promoted into the city clerk for the city of Mountain View. The recruiter on that process was Bobby Peckham. And Bobby Peckham had also done their prior Mountain View's prior recruitment 2 years ago. Bobby Peckham has a current city clerk recruitment right now, but it is another, it's out of area, might be Roseville. I don't exactly recall the city, but it's not a Bay Area city. The city of Milpitas conducted their own recruitment. So they have a recruiting manager and a recruiting division similar to what we have in Palo Alto. And they did run theirs internally, but they did, an external recruitment using internal recruiters. They were also successful in finding someone. That person came from the city of Malibu. So in both cases, the recent recruitments were filled with people who are already in the profession, already active with the, the network and association of clerks, and promoted. The fees for executive recruiters can range. They're typically in the 20 to 30,000 range. Sometimes we've been finding recruiters will fall a little bit below that, but they're generally, pretty much in that range. We tend to see, 23 to 27 is kind of a normal range for one recruitment. And that's the fee that goes to the recruiter. And then in addition to that, the agency hiring the recruiter is responsible to pay pass-through costs is what we call them. And the pass-through costs would include things like when the advertisements are run online, there are fees. There's usually they are still pretty reliant on paper mailers and brochures. And so they do a lot of things digitally, but they still tend to do hard copy mailers. And so there's those costs. During normal times, the recruiter usually makes a couple of trips to the area. They will typically, meet with a committee. They will also meet candidates, on site. And then there's the day of the oral board panels. During COVID, we are finding that executive recruitments, along with most recruitments for professional level positions, are being done virtually. And so the travel costs that are, typically $5,000 to $7,000 worth of travel costs are not being required since the travel is not involved. If candidates are coming from out of area, that is another travel, that is a cost as well. So in our executive recruitments, we pay for the flight and the hotel for candidates who are, coming in for the interview. Let's see, what else might be interesting. So, decision points would be whether you want to conduct the recruitment using internal staff. We're very capable of doing that. We have run lots of executive recruitments. The other, option, of course, executive recruiters. Bobby Peckham would be very familiar with, she's familiar with Palo Alto. She would be, of course, very familiar with the city clerk function, and would have ready pools of people to draw from because she has done the Mountain View one. Staff did do some outreach to Bobby just in case, because we thought that would be a logical choice. Bobby Peckham has an interest and has capacity to take this recruitment. Bobby's firm has expanded, and so she is likely to oversee the recruitment, but she has other recruiters working for her, and she's likely to assign this to someone. So she did express interest. Other options would be, we have a handful, a good 3 or 4 executive recruiters that we've worked for in the past, and are pretty active with us. But again, I would say that Bobby Peckham would be a very logical choice and has capacity to take the recruitment. So that is the information that I have for you. So if you
Great.
have any other questions or.
Yeah, let's start a discussion.
Mhm.
I think both Lydia and Eric said they saw the places. So why don't we have just a discussion among us, and we can keep it kind of informal. So Lydia, you don't have to raise hands, but go ahead. And Eric.
I was just going to ask Rumi. So number 3 of the recommendation, so HR can do the recruitment as well? Is-
We can, yes, you know, it is an option to have HR do the recruitment. The challenge would be the sourcing of the candidates. And so, you know, we would have to, you know, establish contacts. There's a lot of cold calling that happens. You need to identify potential candidates and that type of thing. The thing that we don't have that executive recruiters do have is an active you know, relationships and mailing lists and that type of thing. We do have a presence on LinkedIn, and we do have a social media presence, you know, and so it would just take some time to establish the contacts and to identify what's most likely target, of course, would be other municipalities that have clerks who would be interested in promoting or lateral hire.
Yeah, are there journals or websites that all California city clerks get? Is there not a standard place that people
Yes,
post?
yes. Actually, the clerk profession has a very robust professional association where they provide education and certification and so forth. And so you know, there's centralized place to go.
So do people post job postings there?
I haven't actually checked the site, but I am certain that they do. But the other thing to know is that we have there's a job posting system that is government jobs. And so, you know, that job seekers would be going there to stay updated on open jobs.
And I know the League of Cities, their Western magazine or something, there's
Yes.
often a lot of postings in there too, right?
Yes, we use
So-
them extensively too. We have a pretty robust, and Irene can speak to this as well. We do maintain, for most of our recruitments, we have multiple sources that we go to. We have, it's, you know, a lot of online posting now. Western magazine used to be pretty difficult to work with because their lead times were so far in advance for their paper copy. But, you know, we tend to post on their digital electronic board.
And to confirm, yes, the City Clerks Association does have a job board that we can post.
I remember, and Eric, maybe you can recollect as well. I remember working with Bobby. I think she was pretty good. I thought it was pretty effective, and we got a lot of great candidates.
That's
Do you
my
recall?
recollection. That's my recollection too. I thought she had a good Rolodex and you know, had done this many times.
Yeah.
We've worked with Bobby. We have high regard for her. I've served on, you know, conference panels with her and that type of thing. She is very, very well regarded in the industry. One thing I would want to share, Irene did reach out to Bobby to ask her what her experience was with the recent recruitment. And she did share that although the candidate pool was rated excellent, she said that it was very hard to source, and that it took quite a bit of effort on her part. And that is one concern that she would have for us. She said that Palo Alto does have a reputation for being a complex organization that has, you know, lots of hours in the clerk function and, you know, more extensive a number of meetings, length of meetings. We're known for workload. And so she did express that it would, you know, may be a bit of a challenge, you know, drawing interest. And so she's up to the task, but she just wanted to, she did express that.
So would she have a updated comparative compensation for the Bay Area? So she's done a couple of recruitments.
It's likely that she would have researched and she would have negotiated the salary with on behalf of Mountain View. So she would be well versed on that.
I mean, with ours a couple of years out of date, that has some value.
Yeah, I also popped around and looked at a couple of cities as well.
Okay. I also thought we should be able to get going pretty quickly. The brochure is still really good. I think there's just a few areas to update, maybe the companies that are headquartered here. The amount of staff, I think, changed in the clerk's office. And then the benefits and things, you'd have to go over those to see if they were the same. But
right.
It seemed like we could be done with that brochure like in a couple of days.
So I mean, I think we haven't gone down this path, but we have some talent internally in that office too, but I gather that there's not a sort of a solution set between people that are interested and people that are that are sort of in a position to be able to do that. So there's not an internal candidate.
Well, of course, we wouldn't know until it's actually posted and they would have a decision. But my understanding is that the internals are not likely to apply. I think it's the intensity of the job and the hours and so forth would not be in alignment with the kind of balance that they're needing. So that's what I've been advised.
The external contract is the amount of the contract a function of the salary? Is it a percentage of the salary, or is it a fixed?
Yeah, it's a fix. It's typically a flat rate. Mhm.
So you're saying 27 because Mountain View's was 27?
That's what they reported publicly. I didn't actually pull the contract, but they did publicly report that fee.
Okay.
And Irene, did you get a chance to see? So we've hired executive recruiters in the past year or two, and they're pretty stable on their costs. I think that was pretty
correct.
comparable to what we've been paying. Mhm.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I think Bobby's company put together that brochure, and since the brochure is done, I wonder if they would actually lower the price a little bit,
Yeah,
given that we're in a pandemic.
yeah. Mhm. Right. The other thing, we have a pretty strong support system here in HR. Even though you hire an executive recruiter, we do coordinate with them and provide support. There are times where we negotiate with the recruiter and say, we'll take a little more of the burden if that'll help bring the cost down.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that would be a good approach, particularly if Irene has time. And again, I remember the brochure took a little while and all that work's been done.
Mhm.
So maybe I was serious about getting a little break and that we could reuse it. And we already paid for it once. The other thing is, well, how quickly would this contract get in place?
Well, we actually, the Muni Code was amended, was it last year or the year before, to provide human resources with some flexibility on our procurement practices. And so we actually have the ability to go directly to a contract without having to do informal or the process. And so that does shave off some of the time. And so it would be pretty quick. I would 2 weeks, I'd say we'd have something in place.
Okay, yeah, I was going to kind of go the other way, which would be if we know some potential candidates through our personal networks, could we exclude those or can we reach out to those before we commit to a contract? It sounds like we'd have a couple of weeks to figure that out.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay.
Or can it be within the contract to exclude, to exclude if internally if HR found the candidates?
Yeah, they typically would not do that. They would want us either in or out on the contract. What they do offer, though, is they typically offer a guarantee where if your candidate doesn't work out, there's some, at least I know that's in a couple. We'd have to check with Bobby Peckham because we've used it before. If someone leaves within 2 years, they will do the recruitment again for free.
I mean, the other last point is it would be good to get some of Bobby's time herself. I know you said her company's growing, but I don't know if we can negotiate for that.
To ask her to be the lead on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Irene, did you talked with her? And I mean, we could make that request, or we could maybe select maybe if if there's a touch base with the CAO or or some kind of maybe some milestones, that type of thing. I think her firm is just very, very busy.
And yes, and that's what she mentioned. Because of capacity, she would assign one of her lead recruiters.
That she would oversee the work.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that we could ask her for some direct contact with us.
Okay, well, I guess Yeah, I know we're in a tight budget, but I would support using external recruiter. So I would go ahead and make this motion, the recommendation.
Second.
Do you want to limit the up to amount, or is that 27K an okay item for you?
I mean, I think it's limited up to 27. It sounds like that's what Mountain View just charged. So
Okay. Well,
again, I think if you can negotiate, Rumi, again, based on the things we said, help from staff and existing
Uh,
brochure.
Yes, we would definitely enter into negotiations and do our best to have a better price.
Okay. Any other comment, discussion?
just another one. It wouldn't be necessary for travel right now, right? For either Bobby to go and meet the candidates, or for the candidates to come here now, would it?
That's right. And so the 10,000 that I've listed as pass-through costs it's really overstated. I think that's probably, half of that is probably not necessary because of the travel not being needed. You're right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Just all in favor? I guess, do we have to
Aye.
call it? Aye.
I think
Okay.
you might still have to call it, right?
I think we all verbally said it, so that's fine.
Okay.
It's anonymous.
Great. Okay. So I guess the next step for the CAO committee, I guess we'll notify council that we're going to do this. And would we meet with somebody from the firm, I guess? Is that the next step in the process?
Yes, that would be the next step. And the recruiter would conduct interviews and check in on that ideal candidate and get an update.
And will we be doing the closed session also?
I have some clarification on the closed session. I talked to the attorney's office just to be very clear, because some of the laws have changed about the council appointees. And I was reminded that for the appointee positions, salary discussions are a public matter until the point that you have a candidate and you are going into negotiations. So the closed session would come in once you have the finalist and you want to settle on a salary. And what would happen is the CAO committee at that time would provide direction to the executive recruiter to negotiate the employment agreement and would give parameters like a not to exceed amount. The other option is there are times where a member of the CAO committee conducts the negotiations. You can select one of the members to do that. The other way is you can also direct staff to conduct the negotiations. So you have some options, but the closed session comes in only when you have an individual and that individual is identified at that point.
And the interviews themselves are closed, right?
I have to check. I think that I have to check on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought-
because, and the reason why I say that is because I have known them to be closed when you have a quorum, but that's not always the case.
I think we've done them as the entire council with the short list of candidates, right, in a closed session.
Yeah.
But
Yes, that's correct.
so I guess I forgot to bring it up, but yeah, I guess why wouldn't we advertise a range, and why would we leave the salary so open-ended?
Well, what could be advertised is what's authorized right now, because the salary that's right now, we don't have a clerk range. What we
I
have
see.
is the specific salary that was negotiated in the current employment agreement.
I see. Okay. And because it's frozen and everything, we
Right.
don't want to do that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
And that salary is public, so someone would be able to identify that, to know what the incumbent is making, or the recruiter can publish what the incumbent is making and say, subject to negotiation or something like that.
Okay, great. I think that's it then, right? So thank you
you,
for,
Rumi.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, council member.
Nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
folks.
thanks
See you,
for all the
Nellie.
information.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye,
right,
Beth.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.
Beth, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nellie.
See you
Thank you.
guys soon.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.